Before Tobey Maguire became Spider Man, before Tom Holland became the MCU Spider Man, way before Andrew Garfield became the Amazing Spider Man, before we got this stuff, we had a cartoon in the 90s which was peak Spider Man and was literally the best Spider Man show around. I mean, this show gave us a glimpse into a multiverse way before any other Marvel media did. So if you're already a big Spider-Man fan, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Today we're going to be taking a look all the way into the past, back to the 90s. Today we're going to be talking about Spider Man, the animated series, and why it was one of the best Spider-Man shows ever created. Okay, so before we start talking about the animated series, let's look at what Spider-Man was going through during this time, because Spider-Man is no stranger to animated media, because the first Spider-Man cartoon came out in 1967. That's where we get our iconic Spider-Man theme song from.
Spider-Man, Spider-Man, does whatever a spider can. Spins a web any size, catches thieves just like flies. Look out, here comes the Spider-Man.
Later on, the Amazing Spider-Man live-action TV series showed, but it wasn't really that popular. I mean, it isn't as iconic as the cartoons were. And then after that, we got 1981's Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. We see that Spider-Man has been introduced in cartoons way before the animated series came out. But the thing which really was the differentiating factor between the animated series and all the previous cartoons is the tone of the cartoons, because the 1967 and 1981 cartoons were pretty lighthearted. They were really aimed at the young kids, and they were totally, goody-goody lighthearted. There was nothing dark. And what we basically ended up with during the 90s is that there were a whole lot more darker stories being introduced into Marvel, and there were also a whole lot more iconic stories which were popping out in the comics, such as The Secret Wars, Kraven's Last Hunt, which was a pretty dark and mature Spider-Man story. And it's in Kraven's Last Hunt that we see that Spidey can be a very mature character. And then later on, we got Venom's debut because Todd McFarlane was doing his comic run, and thus these stories gave sort of material to Spider-Man the Animated Series. And before the animated series came out in 1992, Marvel came out with the X-Men animated series, which was really popular on Fox Kids. And even now, X-Men 92 is regarded as one of the great classics of Marvel, because X-Men 92 gave off that dark tone which would later on be seen in Spider-Man as well, because in X-Men 92 they were adapting arcs such as the Dark Phoenix saga, the Days of Future Past, the Legacy Virus, Weapon X backstory, and we also saw characters show a whole lot more dark and, I'd say, serious emotions, because Wolverine was openly bitter, violent, and haunted by his past, and each and every one was dealing with emotions such as death, love, guilt, so on and so forth. So that is a big jump from the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man stuff that we saw in the 60s and Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends that we saw in 81. So the success of the 92 X-Men basically showed that everyone was ready for a bit more dark-toned animated media. So all of these things factored into Spider-Man the Animated Series becoming a success, because the creators of that show were putting in elements and storytelling lines from the iconic storylines of the comics that we got during this time. It's 1994 and Spider-Man the Animated Series comes out and runs for a total of 5 seasons, starting off in 1994 and running all the way till 1998. Now, why was this show so iconic? It was iconic because we got to see a whole bunch of other Marvel characters in the show. We got to see a whole bunch of new arcs which were never seen before, and we also got the symbiote suit and Venom, who gave their first appearances in any type of animated media. So all of these things basically made the animated series way more iconic than any other Marvel cartoon. Alright, so now let's talk about the arcs that we got to see in this iconic cartoon. The first season gave us the origin of our hero, Spider-Man, and the villains. We got to see the origins of Lizard, Shocker, Chameleon, Rhino, and also we got to see Mysterio and Scorpion pop up, the introduction of Eddie Brock, Venom, and the symbiote suit, because this was the first time that these three things were being shown in any cartoon. Then after the first season, we got the really wild plot of the Neogenic Nightmare, which was really crazy, and we saw a whole lot of crazy stuff happen with Spider-Man. We got the introduction of Michael Morbius, you know, Morbius, the living vampire, and we saw Spidey get mutated and turn into the Man-Spider, where he developed extra arms and was this whole weird monster. I mean, we truly felt bad for Spidey in this whole plot. And then we got to see Blade, and this was also the first time that Blade showed up in a cartoon. We got to see the Punisher, and then we got to see a crossover with the X-Men where Spidey goes to ask help from the X-Men to cure his mutation. And then after this, we got the third season, which was The Sins of the Fathers. We got to see the return of Green Goblin, we got the Sinister Six, we got to see Doctor Strange and Dormammu, and after that we got season 4, where we see the Black Cat arc. We got to see Felicia Hardy turn into Black Cat, her father, the cat. We got the Hydro Man arc, which was really dark, and what happens to Mary Jane is really, I mean, it was really sad. I mean, Spidey had to go through a lot in the animated series. And then we come over to season 5, which is basically the final confrontations. Here is where we get to see a whole lot more cool stuff happening. And to me, at least, this has to be one of the most iconic arcs of the show. We got to see Captain America, Red Skull, and then we got the Secret Wars arc, in which the Beyonder comes up and takes Spidey to an alien world. And then we got Captain America, Iron Man, Storm, and we got Fantastic Four's Thing in the show, who battle against villains, and we also get to see Doctor Doom. After Secret Wars comes Spider Wars, which was the finale of the show. And this was, in my book, the coolest Spider-Man animated series moment, because we get to see Spider-Man with other Spider-Men from different realities to battle Spider Carnage, who was threatening to destroy the whole multiverse using a Doomsday device. So this ending really gave Spider-Man a whole iconic touch in my book, and the 5th season in my book has to be the best. And also, we got to see a bit of the Clone Saga thing happening as well, because we got to see MJ and Hydro Man get cloned, and we also see Ben Reilly introduced before stepping into Spider Wars. So the 5th season in my book has to be the most iconic season, and this was just basically all the seasons that came out and what they were about. After season 5, Spider-Man the Animated Series met a very unfortunate end because it got cancelled. And why I call it unfortunate is because a whole lot of awesome stuff was set for the 6th season. Because what we saw in season 5 was the Mary Jane that Spider-Man was with was actually a clone created by Miles Warren, the Jackal, who also created a clone of Hydro Man and cloned Peter Parker, creating Ben Reilly. Now, she disintegrated in Peter's arms, and we find out that the real Mary Jane was lost in another dimension when the Green Goblin fell into a portal and took Mary Jane with her in the season 4 finale. And at the end of season 5, we see Madam Web sending Spider-Man on a mission to find his Mary Jane. Now, it would have been real awesome if we would have gotten a season 6, which would have given a bit of closure to the whole arc and had given Peter a much more happier ending, because we see Peter just jumping into a portal and he says, I'm heading into a new world to find Mary Jane, and wherever she is, I'll find her, and then everything just fades to black. After that, no season 6. Instead, we got Spider-Man Unlimited, which is also a very underrated show in my opinion, which is also one of my favorites, but that's something we'll talk about in a different video. So until the next video, this was the Lorecaster. Thank you very much for tuning in.